All right, welcome to the ABC Trainerize Product Chat. My name is Sharad, co-founder here of Trainerize and president of ABC Trainerize as well. I am so excited to introduce you to two industry heavyweights. We have Mo Iqbal here, Chief Strategy Officer at ABC, and Kelly Card, SVP Product at ABC Trainerize. So, why are we here? We are here to talk about where the industry is headed, how coaches play a significant role in where the industry is going, and most excitingly, how our roadmap is going to support that direction. And it all fits into our theme here of community and the power of belonging in fitness. So with that, Mo, let's kick off with you. First question we got a bunch of questions here to chat about. What have you seen in the industry this year? What are you seeing? How's it shaping the consumer's desires in today's tech-driven world? How they're trying to get fit? Would love to hear that 10,000 foot view, what you're seeing, what you're hearing. Let's kick off.
Yeah, first of all, thank you so much. And it's great to be here with both of you, with the Trainerize group. It's my first time joining the collective, and I'm super excited to be here.
It's
if I zoom out,
you got to check out the chats after, by the way. It goes off the hook.
Okay, and I'm excited. Well, if I zoom out across our ABC Wellness Report, look at the Trainerize Coach Survey, and what we're seeing across wearables, hybrid coaching, community-driven experiences, one pattern is a theme that keeps them coming back over and over again, and that is fitness is no longer a product, it's really a relationship. And I think that's a theme that we're seeing across everywhere. And belonging is really a key currency of engagement. This is why you've seen even things like Diplo's Run Club and other run clubs just take off. A few data points that highlights the shift that we've seen. 57% of clients come for health, but they stay for connection. And when a client feels like they are a part of a tribe, you see attendance jump, retention jumps, and churn drops. 48% of coaches are now hybrid, meaning that they meet clients in person, online, and async, kind of like how we work too, right? And then 42% of coaches lean into connection features. Challenges is really important. Group coaching, voice notes, creating little moments of engagement and celebrating achievements for accountability and community have been key. And if you follow me on LinkedIn, and some of you might, but what I've said recently is that community is no longer nice to have. It's part of your core infrastructure. And platforms that can really help engineer this connection will win the next decade of fitness. And that's something that I've been always excited about Trainerize has always leaned into that. It's really built around the relationship between the coach and the client.
So when you say community, actually recently I saw that you and Connor, our Chief Revenue Officer, did the High Rocks when you guys were in Europe there, right? So I saw the video, saw the pics. I mean, that was like screaming community. So like, tell us about that. Like, how did High Rocks just blow into the whole space and out of nowhere have every video you see, you just see people running together, everyone cheering each other on. And then Kelly, I want to chat about how you take the power of just something that came out of nowhere that built around community, how we can do that now, like within the product, how coaches can do that remotely and still bring to life the same element of belonging, because it is harder virtually. But Mo, tell us about High Rocks. What was that like?
Okay, first off, I asked Kelly to join me on the same Horrocks, but I'll come back to that in a minute. And maybe both of you can join me this year. So I'm relatively new to ABC. I've been here just over 10 months, and I'm still building relationships, and I want to get closer with teams. Now, Connor is someone who I've known for many years, even prior to joining ABC. But it was kind of new in this element. And Shard, you know this. I always believe that by working out together or by doing a hard thing together, you're just naturally going to get closer. So we happen to be at a conference in Germany, in Cologne, Germany, called FIBO, which is one of the largest fitness conferences in the world. And for the last couple of years, they've had a High Rocks in one of their massive halls. So I'm like, this is perfect. I'm going to be there with ABC, good friends with Connor. Let's do this together and get closer. And I'll have to tell you that that experience of doing something doesn't have to be High Rocks, but doing a fitness thing together, working on challenging times together. Look, even on the High Rocks, we were talking about this live. Who's going to split the row? Who's going to split the burpees? And we're playing off each other's strengths to achieve a common goal at the end. And they absolutely crushed it. So we even exceeded what we wanted to do, even though we did some extra laps. Again, that's a different story. But I think the idea of community doing something in person, and even if you're virtually doing it together, being able to celebrate achievements, and more importantly, being able to pull each other forward when we are in that moment of struggle is so important. And Kelly, if you're going to be at FIBO with us again next year, I'm going to count you in. You're going to
You
join
gotta
us.
do it, Kelly. You gotta do it.
I was there. I was cheering them on. But I was not on the challenger field. It was a great event though, and man, the sweat was pouring.
It
Totally. And
was.
actually, most of something interesting there. He said they were both trying to achieve a common goal. I caught on that. So Kelly, like, okay, common goal. So now, how does a coach, allow in the power, in the spirit of community, a bunch of clients they're training, maybe through their app, like, is the common goal, is that the hook that a coach can use to drive community in a mobile app with coaching, or the other hooks, combination of a whole bunch of them?
Yeah, I love the dialogue around community and how we bring forward that sense of belonging. And that's something that we're taking head on as we look into the 2026 roadmap for Trainerize is, how do we help coaches scale with challenges, both coaching-led challenges and maybe even client-led challenges, so that there is a greater sense of community that is driven through the coaching application, but could be coach driven, could be client driven, but ultimately allows the coaching element to scale around how we're thinking about challenges, how we're thinking about groups. One of the things that we're also taking on in 2026 is how we're looking at messaging, right? We've heard your feedback. We want a modernized messenger in the Trainerize application. And so, how we're thinking about that process is something that I can't wait to share with the Trainerize coaches.
So when you think about, you mentioned groups and you have challenges, right? And so I'm sure a lot of our trainers are using challenges inside Trainerize, groups inside Trainerize. Are there any specific use cases you're seeing in terms of how people are grouped together? Again, going to that common goal, is it people who are maybe, someone read the book Outlive, maybe 10 people read Outlive, they're into longevity, and now they have the same way they want to get trained, or a bunch of people trying to get fit for summer and they're like trying to get like lose fat. So are you finding that how are coaches creating groups that make sure that if I'm part of a group I feel like I belong versus like the worst group to me honestly is when I ride my Peloton and there's like 8,000 people riding with me and I'm like rider number 6,500. Like I'm like, this sucks, I don't want to see this leaderboard, this is like demotivating. So how do you avoid a group being demotivating and people aligned on, hey, we're here with the same goal, I'm part of a community, I belong in here, and I feel supported.
Well, the biggest trend that we see there is actually supporting, how trainers are really pivoting to coaches and, looking at the more holistic,
Holistic. Yeah.
perspective element of their clients. And so, within some of our best groups, within the best apps, we see that it is more around the holistic well-being of their clients. And, so that could be then broken out and driven by the modalities in which they're trying to achieve that holistic well-being. But definitely we see the foundational elements of these really successful groups being in it for the long haul, not just the short, hey, quick 30-day group kind of thing.
Yeah.
And when we see the groups really being successful, it is more about the commonality and the belonging in the desired outcomes people are seeking in their lives.
Yeah, makes actually, I was just going to ask you about how you achieve that through an app being simple to use, redesign. I'm gonna put that on hold for a second. We're gonna get to that because I know you obsess over that, Kelly. Apps got to be fun to use, easy to use. You mentioned clients being in it for the long haul. Okay, long haul. Let's chat longevity for a second. Like we're seeing that everywhere in the fitness space right now. A whole bunch of people. I personally read the book Outlive. I have just like obsessed right now over the teachings in there and how exercise can improve on health span, right? The marginal decade, making sure the last 10 years of your life are still as good as like your peak years in your 40s and 50s. So, Mo, what are you seeing? Maybe again, 10,000 foot view, but then bring it to again the role the coach can play. To me, it kind of takes me back to like 2015, 2014, when we started Trainerize. iPhone apps came out for fitness like in the early 2010s. They're like a buck 99, 299, everyone was getting them. And when I used those, I was like, well, the reason why these suck is because they're not personalized for me. And we were like, well, how do we personalize a $2 app? It's like not using a $2 app. It's like somehow can we bring a coach in here? And that was kind of, we started thinking about the category of online training before it existed, right? And so it's something we had to create. So again, my mind now goes to longevity. I'm seeing these like $4,000 or $5,000 a month programs that Equinox is offering. There are a whole bunch of longevity clinics coming up. To me, they're more like med spas, but again, they're like 4 or 5 grand a month. How can coaches make longevity accessible?
That's a really good question. And I love this topic, Short, because to your point, longevity has really become mainstream. You mentioned the book Outlive. I'm a big listener of Huberman and Peter Attia. I'm sure a lot of the
Yeah,
audience is as well. And I think, a couple years ago, Peter Attia has reframed the conversation in a way that is incredibly actionable for coaches. And his core idea is simple. If you don't mind, I'm going to unpack this here for a minute. But what he said is that we don't train the body for what we have today. We train for capabilities that we want 30 years from now, similar to
that's
what you
right.
said, narrowing the gap between lifespan and health span. And that's the difference between the two. It's the years that we can live with strength, mobility, energy, independence, and joy. Like, so you want to even be at the best level till the end. Atia outlines 4 pillars of physical training for longevity, and coaches can integrate all of them easily inside of Trainerize. Now, these are just 4 that I'm going to talk through today. To your point, you could pick whoever you feel most comfortable with, or however your education has trained you. The first is strength. So strength is the foundation for long-term independence. It's the single biggest predictor for functional ability as we age.
Yeah,
Maintaining muscle mass, we all know, allows people to lift and live independently, avoid injury and falls. Coaches can build progressive strength cycles that focus not just on aesthetics, but also on independence decades from now. So that's one. The
okay.
second is stability, and I call this the anti-injury pillar. I've used this myself. I used to get a lot of stress fractures and ankle rolls in my 20s, and I reduced this in my 30s by focusing on stability. Atia on this is clear, and he says that most age-related decline begins with stability failures, not strength failures. And this is where you see a lot of falls and broken hips and all that. So think about things like incorporating balance and gait mechanics, joint integrity, mobility into the routine. So coaches can and should program this into it. The third, and sure, we were just talking about this before we went live, is aerobic capacity. The importance of zone 2 training, cardio, for metabolic longevity. And this is often with all the focus on strength, something that is really not represented or indexed well enough. So the biggest message that Atia talks about in zone training is it's the foundation for mitochondrial health, metabolic flexibility, and cardiovascular and your cardiovascular capability. So for many clients, if you're a coach, by adding 2 to 3 weeks of zone 2 training, it's actually life-changing. And I know people say it's not high intensity, but just being in that steady state has made a big difference. The fourth and final one is anaerobic capacity, and this is your zone 5 training,
Yeah.
your VO2 max resilience, and this might be one of the strongest predictors of long-term survival. And so you could build this through short intentional bursts of zone 5 intensity. If I'm a coach, the way I would do this is integrate it into conditioning cycles with like short intention and not high volume. So this could be just a couple of minutes, maybe even 5 minutes total a week is really all you need. But the VO2 max indicator is something
Yeah.
important that not enough coaches looked at.
So spot on. So it's funny actually. I had my doctor got me to come in and get a VO2 max test a couple of weeks ago. Like my doctor, right? And so here I got like a white lab coat getting me to get a fitness metric, and then he gave me this cardio plan to improve my score over the course of next year. And you're spot on. You have strength, mobility, aerobic, anaerobic. So Kelly, how does, with everything Mo mentioned there, from a product standpoint, and I know you're thinking about this in 2026. Longevity is, a bit of a trend that's now turned mainstream, as Mo said. How do you think we should be looking at the product in terms of what coaches can do to incorporate coaching for those 4 elements in a client? And hey, for the coaches listening here, I know a lot of you have opinions too. Please like light up the chats with what you would want to see based on your belief or even non-belief in everything you're seeing in longevity. But for those of you who want to be able to coach clients when it comes to longevity coaching, let us know what you want to see in there. But Kelly, how are you thinking about it?
Well, first of all, we have to provide coaching with, coaches with the fundamental elements of the things to deliver programming around this, right? So that is the expansion of our exercise libraries around, how we're thinking about stability, how we're thinking about mobility. You've seen us in 2025, do the two-way integration between Apple Health and Google Health so that we're expanding the exercises and the trackability and the relatability of those motions. You'll also see us going more heavily in 2026 into HRV tracking and support. So really excited to bring in that heart rate variability element so that we can tie the idea of energy and stress and overall health back into
Yeah.
Trainerize as an indicator of performance against longevity.
Yeah.
No,
Spot on. No.
I love that. I'm so excited for that, Kelly. I know you and I have spoken about getting HRV into Trainerize, and I think again, it's one of the key metrics that coaches could really anchor an index upon. And here's the big change that I've seen. I actually have a coach too, and I one of the things I told my coach a couple of years ago is instead of focusing on like when you integrate your longevity principles and you think about the longer term, number one, you'll retain your clients longer, but then you stop coaching for the next 12 weeks and you start coaching for the next 20 years. And it really becomes a lifestyle change. So by trainers incorporating these longevity markers into it, you
Yeah.
now have this long-term relationship. Yeah.
And what I would also point out is, coaches are going this way because their clients are going this way, right? When we think about the modern fitness consumer, the line between fitness consumer and consumer is, shrinking and almost becoming non-existent because it is just a way of life. And, so when we think about that holistic well-being, it is how you're leveraging check-in forms. And we've got a lot of iterations on forms coming. It is, how we're thinking about habit tracking, and we've got expansion around habits coming. Those are all elements that point to and support longevity training. One of the big things that we have coming for coaches in 2026 is our AI workout builder. So when you're thinking about how to elevate some of the holistic capabilities and the longevity capabilities, we're going to have, an assistant in there to, help guide you in that area if you need that level of support also.
To
Yeah.
everything that she just said, when you look at most consumers today, especially ones that are high intent on health, they probably have a wearable. It could be an Apple Watch, it could be a
Ask
Whoop, it
about that.
could be
Yeah.
an Aura. I think you have a Whoop, I have an Aura on. And the biggest challenge with these apps is that they give you a ton of data, very little context. Even the AI tools are getting better, but it's still not deep personalized context. And I think to me, if I'm a trainer or a coach, this is where the value comes in. So what we're trying to do with Kelly's roadmap on Trainerize is bring these data points in like HRV such that you could now provide context behind the numbers, because that is what's been missing today with most wearables.
Yeah, two questions for both of you, actually. Out of curiosity, what's your favorite wearable? What I mean by that is there's so many wearables out there. Is there a wearable that if you cohort the clients out, trainers' clients, like someone just kind of entering fitness, just getting into the game of call it wellness, and someone that's, conditioning themselves, been in fitness for 5, 8 years, trainers trying to coach. Out of curiosity, which are your guys' two favorite wearables out there? And then which ones, will integrate the best for a coach to see information on? Is my first question. Second question, you both mentioned HRV. Totally agree with it. If there's a coach listening going, HRV, I don't know enough about how I can use that information to actually tailor and customize my coaching for a client. What's the best way for someone to get familiar with it in terms of the power of how they can actually advance someone's coaching?
Starting with wearables, with 75% of our base being on an Apple device, I go with the Apple Watch because most of our clients and members that are leveraging Trainerize today are Apple users and they're
Yeah.
entry level.
Yeah.
So just being mindful of what that experience is and supporting them. I think the Fitbit is also a really great entry level. But I love the the way that Apple specifically is thinking about the expansion into longevity, how they're thinking about HRV and
Yeah.
their well-being pack. So that's my vote.
Okay. Mo?
Yeah, I mean, I talk about this a lot, and and
Yeah,
and my
you.
first answer is any wearable is better than no wearable, just because it gives you context. And I think if you've got a number, you're going to go after that number. It's going to be top of mind. So I would say any
Yeah.
wearable is better than no wearable. But how many people did we know over the last 10 years that would just go out for a walk just before midnight to get those steps? Guys, it doesn't matter, right? Did you drink enough water? Are you getting enough sleep, right? All of those things are way more important than closing a ring. So technology companies are understanding that. right now my favorite. I just love, or
Yeah.
I love the ring modality. It's one I want the thing just because of the accuracy that position or that real estate in your body gives you, and it's also the most comfortable for sleeping. So if sleep is important, and you want to track that.
Spot on. I saw you posted something on LinkedIn yesterday or today actually about Aura and rings and how it's kind of like ring is kind of the new wearable of choice amongst a lot of people out there. It makes sense. It's the reason I actually picked the ring. I think for everyone in this call, the coach is listening. In some sense, the answer really doesn't matter. I think that the beauty of this answer is different answers. And you're coaching clients, you're coaching consumers at the end of the day, and consumers have choice. And our approach has always been is let's allow the consumer to make the choice they want to make, and our job is to connect the trainer to wherever consumers are. So I think that's a great segue into AI, right? And so again, like, we keep chatting about how do we make sure the gym, the club membership, or the personal trainer is at the anchor of all the moving parts in the fitness ecosystem. So, we've observed the role of wearables and fitness apps in the last 5, 10 years. And we've been obsessing, let's make the personal trainer the anchor over all of it. Now AI is entering, right? So people have choice. I myself go to ChatGPT and I'm like, hey, look, I've got an 8-hour flight tomorrow. What's the best thing I should do today to get blood circulation going? And give me Peter Attia oriented principles of training. And I get beautiful programs. So a lot of people are doing that. How should we be thinking about this? So maybe Mo, from an industry perspective, what are you seeing in AI that you think, we should be curious about? And then Kelly, Mo, like how are we thinking about again? And I know we don't have the answer today, but I know we're gonna get there because that's all we were obsessed about is how do we believe coaches are gonna be the anchor of all the moving parts in AI? What's that hybrid world gonna look like?
Well, AI has fundamentally reshaped the coaching workflow, and if I'm being honest, it's probably faster than any one of us expected. And a coach survey revealed that 62% of coaches today are already using AI. They're using it for things like marketing content, meal plans, workout templates, habit libraries, process automation, and even client messaging. But here's what I emphasize everywhere is that AI doesn't replace coaches. It replaces the busy or admin kind of work that you typically do. It should accelerate your expertise, Sharad, to your point, right, around, asking what do you do up for an 8-hour flight. It doesn't duplicate expertise. So AI should give you templates, the drafts, improve efficiency, things like that. But coaches, similar to my comment on wearables, coaches provide the context, the empathy, the accountability, the personalization, the things that client actually value, right? They don't value the busy work. In fact, they might not even see you doing the busy work behind the scenes. My advice to coaches has been let AI eliminate the friction, but not your fingerprint, and use it as your creativity accelerator and not your true brand persona. So, like for me personally, I create a ton of content. I'll typically write the draft of what I'm trying to do. And then I will use AI to help me find references or post it. I've even used it to help me draft emails and organize my thoughts. So AI has been like the best kind of organization tool, but it's still in your voice and it doesn't replace you.
Agreed with that. And I think that the whole element of this way community comes into play. Like AI can't replicate community. AI can't replicate connection as well. So I think we've got opportunities from an app standpoint to say, hey, what role does AI play? Kelly, I know that from an AI standpoint, you're looking at ways to eliminate some of the admin work that Mo's talking about there. So maybe chat a bit about the AI workout builder. Interesting stat for everyone in this call too. The average client relationships for a lot of our trainers and clients, really isn't more than 5 months. And the reason for that is because the training program length is around 3 to 4 months. And so I think some coaches struggle with that secondary program. And this is where AI can really help. And maybe chat a little bit about Trainerize Business. It's a product we just launched, a few months ago. Clearly, it's the first inning of a long road ahead of a vision we have and what business means in the world of AI too. So maybe share with the group how we're thinking about AI in the product, and share maybe how we're thinking about Trainerize Business, automating a lot of what Mo just talked about.
Yeah, I love that. What excites me about this point in time around AI is that it's not something that is just out in the ether. It is now something that we are all operationalizing and finding actually valid use points to apply an application of it to. My number one advice is don't be afraid of AI. Use it to automate and accelerate how fast you can move. That's how we're thinking about it at Trainerize. We think that AI is a tool that we're going to help you use to scale your business, protect your time, and elevate the quality of the programming that you deliver. Ultimately, the elevating the power of the connection that you have with your clients. So when we think about AI specifically around programming, it is really speeding it up. We hear from our coaches that the thing that takes the most time is building workouts, editing workouts, and creating that level of personalization. Well, we want to do that. We want to continue to preserve that fingerprint of the coach. But what we want to do is we want to be able to help coaches iterate faster and do it while they're on the fly. And so that is what our AI workout builder is really intended to do. Is number one, we want it to build really strong programs from the context of the client, but with the personalization and the style of the coach. So that's number one. Number two, we want to make building programs easy. So that's a capability you'll see coming in 2026. Number three, we want it to be easy to onboard new clients. So whether it is a client that has a workout program that they're bringing you and they're wanting to iterate from, so we're creating a file uploader. So it's just very easy, to bring in and incorporate old programs, and understand the progression. So really excited that this is the first stop for AI within Trainerize is tackling, the number one time consuming issue for coaches. And, already we have it in alpha today. We see that it's reduced the time that coaches are spending building workouts by 75%. So, our goal is to get it down to, saving about 80 to 90% of the time.
Love it, love it, love it. So while you have the mic, Kelly, maybe tease out 2026. So just for the group here, Kelly shared with me like a high level view of the roadmap in terms of the direction we're taking the product. I got really excited. There's some really sweet things coming out. So maybe Kelly, like high level, what should coaches be expecting from us next year? Maybe chat a bit about the redesign we just did too, because I know one thing you always obsess about is fitness is hard, and the last thing we need is this thing coming in the way when you're at the gym working out. And it's got to be simple, fun, motivating. I know that's the goal and intent here. So chat a bit about the redesign and how you're thinking about the roadmap for 2026 before we wrap up.
Yeah. So for 2026, you've really seen us say we are listening to you. We are listening to our coaches. That is the good, that is the bad, that is the where we need to go, right? And then we're also responding to what's happening in the marketplace, what's happening to coaches with their clients, what's happening with fitness consumers, what are the shifts and the dynamics that we need to enable you to move towards. And so what we do is we look at what are the marketplace shifts that are happening. So we know, for example, that just within our coaching base, that now over 70% of Trainerize coaches are hybrid. So, we're thinking about that in-person experience and that online experience at scale. We know that we have to address the holistic and longevity elements and continue to expand those. So you're going to see the HRV, the mood, the energy, those types of things being, prevalent. We also heard from our coaches and continue to hear from our coaches that the number one problem you have with running your businesses is client acquisition. So you've got coaching nailed, but how can we support you with client acquisition? We're thinking about that with Trainerize Business, how we're thinking about referrals, prospect journeys, tiered memberships and client types, and really helping you expand your business. We also know that operational complexity around running your trainer business as a solopreneur or with a smaller team is something that's a big undertaking. So how can we help you support and bring more tooling within Trainerize so that you have an all-in-one platform. You're going to see a lot of that in 2026. And as it pertains to the client redesign that we just did, we absolutely hear you. It was a #1 piece of feedback, maybe for a little too long, that we needed to go, really take a look at that client experience. So what we did is we actually put forward a modern usability design study around mobile applications. So how fitness consumers are using mobile, where the best placement of buttons are, what the spacing needs to be, considered relevant and congruent with other applications. And so, we've put forward a client redesign. We have received a lot of overwhelmingly positive feedback from that. There is some really great negative feedback that we're also incorporating, but positive or negative, we hear you. We want to keep that feedback coming in because it makes us all better. So thank you, thank you, thank you. So let's talk for a second about Trainerize Business, because that's something that we launched in 2025, really to support the #1 thing that we were hearing as a problem for coaches. And that is the ability to acquire clients. That is the overall #1 pain of being a coach. And so, what we said is, what are the tools that we can provide to coaches that are going to help create and generate a flywheel of business? So, we launched Trainerize Business really as a way to begin to deliver elements. And boy, we're going to continue forever to deliver elements that are going to create a system around not only helping you grow your business, but consolidating the business tools that you're using to run your business and just drive even more efficiency. So, we started off, for example, with client referrals, the ability to refer friends and have a trial journey within the application. Why? Well, we know that referrals convert at a 40% higher modality than any other kind of new business. So that is really important. The other element that really matters about referrals is that the lifetime value of a referral is 30% greater than a new client that you don't have any other association with. So, those are really big elements. And so I encourage you to lean in, activate that portion of Trainerize Business, because it is the flywheel of your business. When we think about big things that we're taking on in 2026, though, we are thinking about modernizing that trainer view. We've taken on the client view in 2025, and we're thinking about the trainer view in 2026. We're thinking about the messenger. I said that earlier in the conversation, that how we think about the modernization there is important. So threads, pins, scheduling a post, those types of things are really going to be prevalent. We're thinking about the advancement of nutrition, so having significantly more flexibility, the ability to reuse client meal plans, and daily configurability around calories and macros. Those things are important. And things like the ability to have configurable meal logging notifications for coaches, those things matter. When you have clients that you want to engage with at different levels, right? And we know that AI around food is also important. So not only in the photo imagery that clients need to have to make food logging easy, but also just in the AI supported meal plan generation, we're thinking about those things as well.
Busy year ahead. So for everyone listening, our product managers, I want to echo what Kelly said. We take our customer feedback very seriously. I'd love for our team to actually flash up the URL for our user voice forum. We have an ideas forum. Please get active in there. We have over 55,000 training businesses using Trainerize every day. So the more feedback we get, the better. It helps us prioritize, especially if you all vote. You get our NPS surveys. We ask you questions, 0 to 10. to recommend us, but more importantly, there's a question below that saying, why did you give us the score? Fill that out. Our team reads every piece of feedback we get, and we get a lot of it, and it gives us the energy we need to keep building out our roadmap. So please fill that out. Mo, Kelly, thank you both so much. That was a great session. For the rest of you, before we wrap up, we're going to leave you with something special. The team's going to put together a feature sneak peek that kind of dives a little bit into what Kelly was talking about for 2026. Thank you all. Take care.